believed to be of illegal miners have been found at a dumping site in Germiston. The bodies are in an advanced stage of decomposition and it's still unclear where they could have come from. For the latest on that story now, we cross back to Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi, who's at the scene. Linda, just paint a picture for us. Has there been any movement since our last conversation?
There has indeed been a lot of movement, Hugo, throughout the rest of the afternoon. You see some of the Zama Zamas, or what is believed to be Zama Zamas, moving, across the area, as of course the forensic pathologists have just concluded collecting those bodies that were here. It roughly took about 10 minutes for these authorities to get through the scene and collect those bodies. Some of them very small, and could fit and could help, authorities fit them in basically one stretcher that allowed them to put them in these two vehicles that you see here. All of those bodies have now been loaded by the authorities here. A very, very quick job. But, one thing that we noticed also, Hugo, was that when the authorities arrived, or the authorities from the Forensic Pathology Services arrived, what you were able to see there was also a large number of what looks like illegal miners coming from this area, passing just as the same way as you're seeing with the ones that have just passed. It was an operation that was very quick. As you see, they've concluded and they've filled in all the documentation that needed to be filled. It took 2 vehicles to load all those boxes. I mean, you should have seen the scenes as they played out. Some of them very, very tiny, wrapped next to each other. And the stench that came from that, you see us carrying these masks, really protecting us from that. You see police are now clearing the scene. It's no longer cordoned off, and it's no longer, of course, a crime scene, as of course those bodies have already been collected. Took hours, essentially. Took hours for these bodies to be collected. You'll remember from our last crossing, what we were told by the residents was that they heard around 6:30 this morning that in fact there was a number of bodies here. I'm just going to put in my mask as we come closer now and get a sense of what it looked like here at the scene. So some of those bodies were scattered all over here. As you see, the gloves from the authorities of the Forensic Pathology Services, who were literally here just moments ago collecting these bodies, many of them. In fact, from what I saw earlier on, here there were quite a number of bodies that were placed here. You would have seen they were also numbered, but it looks like they were attached one next to the other and wrapped with what you're seeing there. It looks like from where they come from, they were carried using these wooden sticks that you see here on the floor. The smell and the stench that came from these bodies really told a tale of bodies that have long started decomposing, and really in the manner that they were wrapped, Hugo. What I've just shown you, what looks like a sellotape of some sort, some of them wrapped with that throughout, around their bodies, essentially. So they were brought to this area, and I mean, as we get closer and closer, the stench is quite unbearable, Hugo, and it's something that really residents, had to deal with for the entire day. If what they're telling us is anything to go by, they've had to be onlookers and watch those gruesome scenes, or what they saw here, or the discovery of those bodies here throughout the day. One of the residents telling us, in fact, she only discovered or heard about these bodies at around 1 o'clock. And I mean, if you compare that with the one resident that we spoke to, who said she heard around 6:30 in the morning that there were bodies here, it's quite a long time. And now, just a short while ago, these vehicles coming to collect those bodies. Some, of course, of the conversations that we're hearing here on the ground is around shortage, of the authorities who would usually be working around these particular scenes and collecting bodies in various parts of Ekurhuleni. So it's been really a day of residents really being onlookers to this gruesome scene that really left a stench in their area. But I've also had an opportunity to speak to some of them after our crossing, Hugo, who were telling me that in fact their area, this informal settlement, is in fact infested with quite a number of illegal miners. One resident who did not want to come on record telling us that a number of them live in large groups. You find, and I quote from what exactly she told me, she said, you find them in one room, about 30 of them who are in one room and are living there. And that is creating a problem. She says the issue around crime as well is also one big problem that they have to deal with. You remember the discovery of these 8 bodies come just after the discovery of, 31 bodies in the Free State, which really speaks to the issue around the problem of illegal mining in South Africa and the casualties that come from there. We saw, of course, the Mineral Resources Department speaking about those issues, of course, speaking about how, Lesotho is also really not playing ball when it comes to the law. But residents here in this area are telling us that it is, of course, one of the biggest problems that they have to deal with. Hugo?
Linda Mnisi coming to us from Germiston on